The scanty light of the street lamps shone through the half-open roller blinds. Richard sat leaning against the wooden armrest of Elaine's favourite chair. He stared silently at a single point on the floor, neither blinking nor paying attention to his vibrating phone. Though the caller was persistent, the phone came to life at least 7 times. Richard's consciousness was somewhere far away. Around midnight the doorbell rang, but Richard remained motionless in his chair. Shouts echoed from behind the door, someone calling his name. When the calls gave way to deafening blows on the doorframe, Richard suddenly stirred. His eyelids twitched, but instead of answering, he reached for an elegant Czech crystal decanter half filled with cognac. He poured another portion and downed it in one gulp. The knocking at the door ceased. Richard gazed indifferently at the glass, his eyes as cloudy and empty as the glass itself. After a few more drinks, Richard began drifting into oblivion, having not slept for 2 days. Even the alcohol couldn't help. Though Elaine had sleeping pills in her nightstand, Richard couldn't bring himself to enter his wife's room. Sleep, just beginning to take its hold, suddenly vanished, replaced by the crushing realization that his familiar world had shattered beyond repair. Just as his consciousness began to shut down, something clicked in his head, commanding him to wake up and remember everything, to not forget for even a moment. On the table beside the bottle lay an envelope he hadn't dared to open. He knew he needed to read its contents, but he lacked the strength to do so. The envelope bore Elaine's smooth, neat handwriting. A single phrase graced the white paper. To my beloved. Elaine's sister Meredith had given it to him at the wake. Richard was afraid to open it. 2 days had passed since then, but his resolve only weakened. When the phone vibrated again, instead of answering, Richard seized the smartphone and hurled it at the opposite wall. It flew several meters before striking the mirror, sending shards scattering with a deafening crash. But even this failed to bring Richard to his senses. He breathed heavily, and suddenly, for the first time since learning of his wife's death, broke into loud, racking sobs. Hot tears streamed down his unshaven face, dripping from his chin onto his t-shirt. "Darling," Elaine had murmured into the phone when Richard finally answered. "What time are you coming back?" "The flight's tonight. I'll be home in the morning," he had replied while packing his bag. "I've missed you so much," his wife had purred. "I haven't seen you for ages, and I have a surprise for you." Richard had mumbled. "I hope it's pleasant." "Fool," Elaine had laughed. "Of course it's pleasant. I wouldn't make it unpleasant." "Well, you know how wives and husbands who return early from business trips sometimes get unpleasant surprises." "Richard," she had chided playfully, "you know there are no other men for me. Besides, if anyone should be jealous, it's me. You went with your Bonnie. You know she's trying her best to get you." "Elaine, come on, Bonnie is my colleague. Yes, sometimes she oversteps, but it's not serious. It's just her humour." "Yeah, it's very hilarious. I've seen how she makes eyes at you. Remember when she came to your office after the holidays? Only a woman would notice, but she had the look of a predator. You're handsome and smart. Girls usually chase such men in droves, so Bonnie isn't letting the opportunity slip." "Elaine, Bonnie and I have a strictly business relationship. I don't know what you think you saw. Yes, sometimes she flirts, but she has a boyfriend who's much more interesting than me." "Don't be modest. A boyfriend isn't a husband. Today one, tomorrow another, especially with someone like Bonnie." "That's enough," Richard had muttered, not wanting to discuss his co-worker's obvious advances with his wife. He had no desire for another jealous argument or relationship drama. The business trip had been difficult. He had managed to secure the contract his office needed, which wouldn't have happened without Bonnie's help. He did not mention the fact that Bonnie had drunk wine with him in his room the night before, really. She had just complained about her successful boyfriend, and when she'd gotten very drunk and started making advances, Richard had simply escorted her out and locked his room. But Elaine didn't need to know about that. "Okay, my love," Elaine had sighed. "I'm looking forward to morning. I won't sleep all night. Should I pick you up from the airport?" "No, honey, what are you thinking? Go to bed. I want to see you fresh and well rested." "All right. I won't call again today. I've got things to do, so don't worry if I'm not in touch." "Well, you're intriguing me, Elaine," Richard had thought. "What is this?" But he knew she wouldn't tell him anyway. He'd spent the rest of the day finishing his work and avoiding Bonnie's company. He wanted to call his wife several times, but limited himself to messages, which she hadn't answered. Just before the flight, Richard had a strange sensation in his stomach. The man had gone to the bathroom, washed his face, and dialed Elaine's number. There was no answer. When boarding was announced, Richard had switched his phone to airplane mode, put on his sleep mask, and feigned exhaustion. He hadn't wanted to speak with Bonnie, who sat beside him, nor had he wanted to sleep. Yet after the plane reached cruising altitude, he had dozed off without realizing it. He had awakened only when the pilot announced their landing. "God, did I sleep through the whole flight?" Richard had asked Bonnie, yawning. "Uh-huh," the girl had grumbled unhappily. "I, on the other hand, didn't sleep a wink. I wonder how you could sleep through such turbulence." "Turbulence?" the man had asked, surprised. "The plane hit a rough patch," Bonnie had explained. "It was shining so bright outside the windows that I had to lower the curtain. I'm afraid of thunderstorms. And you were just sleeping, unable to comfort me." "Bonnie, it's a modern airplane. Everything is protected from the thunderstorms," Richard said with a reproachful look. The pilot had probably handled situations like this many times. Yes, flying can be scary sometimes, but you can't escape fate. Even if we started to crash, what could be done? What's the point of trembling with fear and cursing everything? "How cold you are." Bonnie wrinkled her nose. "Such a bore. I don't know how your Elaine puts up with you. I couldn't." Richard just muttered, "Uh-huh," and grinned, remembering Bonnie's drunken advances from yesterday. After getting his luggage, Richard turned on his phone. The screen lit up with notifications of missed calls and messages, almost all from Meredith, Elaine's older sister. "Come to the hospital immediately," read one of the last messages. Everything went cold inside Richard. He dialed his wife's number, but it was out of range. He called Meredith back immediately. She answered instantly. "Richard, oh, finally!" Her voice was extremely agitated and strangely bitter. "Meredith, what happened? Why isn't Elaine answering? I just got off the plane." "Richard," Meredith choked out. "Richard, Elaine is gone." "What do you mean?" A paralyzing wave of cold swept over him, making Richard shudder. "A clot!" Meredith's voice came as if through a thick fog. "She was at my place. I went to the kitchen for a second, and when I came back, Elaine was lying there. I called an ambulance. She was in intensive care briefly, but—" "Meredith, where are you now? Where's Elaine?" "They've taken Elaine to the morgue. I'm still here signing papers." "I'll be right there," Richard shouted. Bonnie, noting his pallor, immediately sensed something was wrong. "Richard, what is it?" she asked anxiously. "Bonnie, are you by your car?" he asked, knowing a taxi would take too long. Yet there was nowhere to hurry, and everything inside Richard rebelled against the fact of his wife's death. "No, this can't be happening," Richard argued with himself. "What blood clot? Elaine's only 26. Isn't that something that happens to old people mostly? Though I've heard it can happen to anyone. Something breaks off in the vessels, gets stuck, and that's it. The blood stops flowing. What am I talking about? Elaine can't be dead. She and Meredith must be playing a trick on me. She mentioned a surprise, right? What idiots! You can't joke about such things. I'll give them a piece of my mind when I get there. Bonnie nodded. Need a ride? Yes, please, to the city hospital. Is someone sick? The girl frowned. I don't know. Richard shook his head. My wife's sister just called, talking nonsense about the morgue. Elaine mentioned some surprise yesterday. They must be playing a joke. Are you sure? People don't usually joke about morgues, Bonnie worried. Maybe it's serious. Nothing can be serious, Richard waved dismissively. They're just messing with me. Elaine's always playing pranks, and now she's got Meredith involved. I always thought Meredith was serious. Guess I was wrong. Well, said the girl, it's your call, but you looked awfully pale when you got that call. I believed it at first, and then I thought about it. What did they say? That Elaine was dead. Richard grinned. You know what? I see right through it now. Just a prank. Richard? Bonnie opened her car door. What if it's not a prank? Richard felt cold again, his skin prickling with goosebumps, but having convinced himself it wasn't real, he brushed off the tension with a wry laugh. Meredith stood at the hospital's main entrance when Richard and Bonnie arrived. Her face was ashen. Meredith, hello, he greeted cheerfully. Enough already, I'm tired of Elaine's jokes. It's not funny anymore. Where is she? What are you talking about? Meredith asked faintly. What joke? I explained everything, Richard. I know you're in shock, but you need to accept this. Elaine's in the morgue. You need to collect her things. Fine, I'll play along, Richard grinned. Where's the morgue? He walked down the basement corridor toward the morgue. She definitely needs a lesson, he thought angrily. Look how far they've taken this. Meredith with her tragic face, and Elaine's really outdone herself. I wonder how much she paid the hospital staff for this performance. She must have used her friend who works in the morgue. That's how it will be. When they bring her out of the refrigerator, she'll open her eyes. No more spending extra money for her. Here I am working hard, away for months on business trips, and my wife plays these games. Well, I'll get back on her for this. The frosted glass door was slightly ajar. Richard knocked and entered. A heavy-set man with glasses sat at the desk. Hello, Richard waved. I'm Richard Hughes. I'm here for my wife. The man replied indifferently, clicking his mouse. Elaine Hughes. One moment, follow me. They entered another room through a heavy metal door. One wall was lined with small iron doors, like square desk drawers. The man turned a handle on one of them. Such a pity about your wife. The employee sighed. So young and beautiful. He pulled out a gurney noisily. Something lay on the smooth surface covered with a white cloth. The man pulled back the cover, and Richard saw her. Wow! What makeup! He examined Elaine's corpse. Her face was sharp with dark circles under her eyes that looked eerily real. Elaine, he called out. All right, I believe you. Now get up, get dressed, and let's go home. The pathologist gave him an odd look. Are you all right? I'm fine, Richard grinned, but she doesn't seem to be. Elaine, that's enough. Joke's over. Richard grabbed his wife's shoulder to shake her. But as soon as he touched her, he jerked his hand back. Elaine's shoulder was ice cold and rigid. Listen, the morgue attendant began gently. When someone close dies, many people struggle to accept it. It's a normal psychological defense, but eventually you must face the reality. Take your time. When you're ready, call me. I'll give you her personal belongings. But, Elaine, wait. This can't be real. Elaine, wake up! Please! You've scared me enough! Richard began shaking her shoulder frantically, staring helplessly at her blue lips, tangled hair, and the rough suture beneath her collarbone. Richard suddenly realized that everything he had heard earlier was true. He slumped exhaustedly in his chair. "You see, she was preparing a surprise for me," Richard said brokenly. "She's always like that. I also asked if it was pleasant or not, and when Meredith called, I convinced myself it was all just a stupid joke." But it wasn't a joke. A blood clot at 26. No one is immune, sighed the man. "I sincerely sympathize with you. I know these words mean little now, but I lost my wife a couple of years ago myself. You can't escape the reality of it. The person is gone, but life continues. You just need to find your bearings now. Don't listen when people say time heals. Losses are never forgotten. It just gets a little easier with time." "How long were you married?" 4 years, Richard said, taking another sip of coffee. "Elaine had a hard life. I don't know why I'm telling you this, but when she was 19, she was set up. She wasn't using, she was just dating some dealer who planted drugs in her purse. They stopped her, searched her, and there it was. They gave her a light sentence by the standards of that article, but it was enough to ruin everything. I met her right after her release from prison. I'm not one to judge people. Life isn't easy for everyone. Elaine was a sunny person, very kind and sympathetic. She never let anyone down, organised her own charity for the homeless, donated to animal shelters. We don't have children of our own. You see, when Elaine was imprisoned, she was pregnant and lost the baby. The labour was difficult. In the prison system, nobody really cares. My wife almost died during delivery. The baby didn't survive, and they had to remove Elaine's uterus. She could never become a mother again. I accepted this fact. After all, you can always adopt. But we never even discussed it. I didn't push. I knew when it became relevant, it would happen naturally." The pathologist glanced up from under his brow. "Well, I see. Now, you'll need to sign some documents. The deceased's sister has already handled part of it, but as her husband, you need to provide the final signature. And take your wife's belongings. There isn't much, just what was brought from home." After signing papers he barely glanced at, the doctor retrieved a small plastic bag from the safe and emptied its contents onto the table. He read out the inventory while Richard silently examined each item. A cell phone, a wedding ring, a hair clip, earrings, and a pendant. The last one Richard clutched tightly, a delicate silver piece that Elaine had always worn, never removing it. The pendant showed a cat curled in an arc. It was clearly custom-made. Richard had once asked his wife why she never took it off, when even her wedding ring rested on a velvet cushion on her nightstand. But Elaine had only shrugged, her face becoming inexplicably sad and lonely, and Richard had learned not to mention it. After turning the little cat over in his hands, Richard slipped it around his neck. For a week after the funeral, he stayed locked in his apartment, ignoring work, refusing calls, and turning everyone away, even Meredith. He found solace in bottles, until one morning, awakening with a crushing hangover, he realized alcohol offered no real comfort. Richard surveyed the living room, which had become his personal bar over the week. Bottles littered the table, floor, and space behind the sofa. After washing up, he grabbed a garbage bag and collected everything. He called a cleaning service, and while the woman worked, decided to make himself presentable. At the barber shop, he got a haircut and shave. In the mirror, Richard saw a tired man with dark circles under his eyes, a gaunt, thinning face and a wan look. When he returned home, the cleaning was complete, as indicated by the note on his doorknob. As he was opening the door, heels clicked behind him. He turned to find Bonnie standing there. "Hi," she smiled. "I didn't expect to catch you outside your door. Richard, where have you been? I've come by so many times, I was starting to imagine the worst." "What do you want?" he snapped. "Why can't you just leave me alone?" "Richard, stop," the girl said, her lips forming a hurt pout. "I understand you're grieving, but what's the point in destroying yourself? Your wife isn't coming back." "Yeah, and you're just waiting to take advantage of the situation." "How can you say that?" Bonnie protested. "Yes, I like you. It would be stupid to deny it, but I'm not trying to exploit your grief. I'm here as a friend, Richard. We've known each other so long. And I thought I meant more to you than just another faceless co-worker." "Really? Who are you? As far as I remember, work is all we've ever shared. I don't know what kind of friendship you think we have, but you're a stranger to me. You're being incredibly tactless right now. Can't you see I'm not in the mood for chatting? Just go. I don't need your help. If you want to sympathize with someone, there are plenty of charities. I can give you the address of the one Elaine started. Nobody's running it now, anyway. There are plenty of homeless people who need help. Go feed them soup." "Why are you being like this?" Bonnie cried. "What did I do wrong?" "You're the one who follows me around like a puppy. And now that I've lost my wife, you think I care about some gold digger like you?" "Gold digger?" Bonnie grimaced. "Richard, why are you treating me this way? Have I offended you? I just wanted to support you as a friend. Anyone can see you're suffering, but you're refusing basic support. You can't go on like this. Everyone will turn away and you'll end up alone. Life can take unexpected turns. I'm not talking about material things. People need human connection. You think I don't know you have almost no one left? As soon as you got married, you stopped talking to your friends. You and Mike were best friends. He told me so much about how you used to—" "What right do you have to pry into my life?" Richard exploded. "And bringing up Mike? I didn't stop being friends with him because I got married. He's a complete scoundrel. Ask him how he cheated me out of my money. As for my other friends, that's none of your business. Elaine was my whole world. I didn't need anyone else with her, and I don't need anyone now. Oh, Mother Teresa, just leave me alone. Don't ask about me any more. Understand?" "Idiot," Bonnie muttered under her breath. "What? What did you call me? Look who's talking, you doormat." "How dare you!" Tears welled up in Bonnie's eyes. "You have no right to call me that. You don't know anything about me." "I've heard enough rumours about you for years, and your behaviour only confirms them. Get out of here, because I don't want to see you again." "But we'll see each other at work anyway." "No, we won't. I'm quitting. So forget about this place and delete my number. That's it, Bonnie. Goodbye." Richard slammed the door in front of Bonnie's face. The last thing he saw was her tear-stained, anger-twisted expression. Maybe I overreacted, he thought later. Why did I get so nasty? But she shouldn't have shown up unannounced and made a scene. Yes, I was rude. But wasn't I telling the truth? To hell with them all. They're poking around where they don't belong. It's my problem. I'll survive without their fake support. Angry and agitated from the confrontation with Bonnie, Richard took another bottle and glass from the cupboard, went to the living room, and sank heavily into an armchair. He had just poured himself another drink when an envelope with Elaine's handwriting caught his eye again. The man hesitated, then picked it up and tore it open. Immediately, his wife's familiar perfume wafted out, making his heart ache. He pulled out a folded sheet from the envelope and began to read. "My love, don't ask questions. Just follow the instructions. You're probably surprised I'm not home, but as promised, I've prepared a surprise for you. Don't be angry. I planned this long ago, but wasn't sure how you'd react. Go now to the address below. I'll wait for you there. Questions later. Your Elaine. Why would she go there? Richard thought and took out his phone. He searched the address his wife had written. There was an orphanage at that location. An orphanage? Richard was surprised. This was her surprise? Elaine must have decided to do charity work with children. But what do I have to do with it? She knew I didn't want to be involved in such things. She'd do whatever she wanted, while I don't care about the poor, especially not children. What's the point of going now? Maybe Meredith knows something. No, I don't even want to call. She'll just start making a fuss. Should I go? The staff must know something. Maybe she promised them support, so I should at least fulfill her last wish. I'll talk to the director, give them some money. Richard hurriedly packed and headed to the address. Located in a remote residential area, it took almost an hour to get there through traffic. Though Richard cursed himself for making the trip, he was determined to investigate and fulfill his late wife's final request. The building was precisely what Richard had imagined an orphanage would look like, an old, dilapidated 2-story structure of brick surrounded by a sparse garden of old trees. It looked unwelcoming. This place clearly needs sponsorship, he thought, wrinkling his nose. Even the windows were outdated. Nowadays, even provincial buildings had double-glazed windows. Everything here was falling apart. Doesn't the state fund this place? Children's welfare is supposed to be a priority now. Typical Elaine. I can guess how she found this godforsaken place. Probably just online searched the most run-down orphanage in the county. My life savings wouldn't be enough to fix it up. Well, I'm here anyway. Maybe I can at least donate them some clothes or electronics. Richard stepped out of his car and breathed in deeply. The air smelled of dampness and decaying leaves. Suddenly, memories of his first meeting with Elaine flooded back. It had been early October then too. She had just been released from prison and was sitting in the park, savouring her freedom. Richard had approached her, knowing nothing of her past or present. Her energy simply drew him in. A delicate brunette, wrapped in an oversized hand-knitted scarf, sat alone on a bench, her feet barely touching the ground. She looked like a porcelain doll, touching with her huge eyes, small red nose and freckles scattered across her snow-white face. Next to her, Richard felt like a rough giant. The girl was crying. Being a gentleman, he couldn't walk past someone distressed. "Excuse me," Richard said to the stranger. "Are you all right? Can I help?" "Me?" she answered distractedly. "No, I'm not all right." Then she broke into sobs. Concerned, Richard sat beside her and tried to comfort her. "What's wrong? Did something happen? Did someone die? Are you hurt?" "My soul hurts," she sobbed. "I'm lost. I don't know where to go. I've just returned from prison. 3 years of my life gone." "You?" Richard was stunned. This fragile young woman didn't fit his image of a woman's prison, with its high fences, barbed wire and uniformed guards. "Yes, me," she smiled bitterly. "Surprised? Do you think only tough people end up there? Not at all. It's full of ordinary women of all ages and backgrounds. They have one thing in common. They took a wrong turn in life, or rather, got involved with the wrong man. There are 1,000 women there, and most are in jail because of men. That image the media portrays, vicious convicts, alcoholics, hardened criminals who've lost their humanity, it's just a stereotype. Where I was is more like purgatory for lost souls." "And how did you end up there?" Richard asked. "It just happened that way," she said, gazing skyward. "I had a boyfriend. I suspected what he did, but played the saviour. You know how it goes. I was this naive dreamer who fell head over heels for a lowlife. I foolishly believed I could reform him with my love and support. I was such an idiot. He brainwashed me for a couple of years, always promising to quit and find honest work. But how can you quit when a legitimate job pays 10 times less? And I believed his lies. Then one day we went grocery shopping. I was driving, Sam beside me. In the parking lot, a car cut us off. Another blocked us from behind, and suddenly people were dragging us out and restraining us. I knew right away Sam had been caught. I was terrified, of course. I was too young, turning 19 in a week. I knew I was clean, so I worried for Sam. But when they searched us, they found a package in my purse. I swear I'd never seen it before and had no idea how it got there. Then came the interrogations and searches. They found plenty at our place. I told them everything I knew. I got 3 years in general regime. Sam got 5. Then I found out I was pregnant. I spent 3 months in the pre-trial detention waiting for appeal and gave birth in the prison. They took me to a special maternity hospital, but there were complications. They told me the baby didn't survive and the surgery left me unable to have children. I was in shock for a long time. My body healed, but my mind was broken. They transferred me to another colony with a sewing workshop. Now I'm out, but I have nowhere to go. My parents disowned me. Only my sister stood by me all this time. I'm staying with her now, but I can't burden her forever. I need work, but who will hire me? No experience, no education, a criminal record, and for such an article. Winter's coming and I don't even have warm clothes. Sam got early release, visited once, then vanished. When I got out, I learned he'd died of an overdose. "Hey, girl, don't lose hope," Richard exclaimed. "Yes, things are bad, but there's always a way forward. You're young, healthy, beautiful. The key is having a goal. Would you like to get coffee? You're shivering from the cold." "Really?" The stranger's eyes lit up. "I'd give anything for a cup of coffee." "Let's go," Richard smiled. "There's a cool coffee shop nearby. By the way, my name is Richard. And you?" "Elaine," smiled back the girl. Their romance blossomed quickly. 6 months later, Richard proposed, and Elaine was overjoyed. Taking a deep breath of fresh air, Richard entered the orphanage. The first floor was dim. Richard observed the peeling paint on the ceiling and crumbling linoleum underfoot. "Who are you here to see?" A harsh female voice startled him from behind. Richard turned around. "Hello," he said, facing an elderly woman in a grey dress. "I'm sorry, to be honest, I don't even know." "What do you mean?" the woman asked, surprised. "I'd like to see the principal." The woman's tone softened. "Do you have an appointment?" "No, but—" "Mrs. Peterson is very busy. Without an appointment, she's unlikely to see you. What's your business? Sponsorship or adoption?" Sponsorship," Richard answered confidently, knowing that mentioning money could open doors. "I'll see if she can receive you. I hope she hasn't left yet," the woman said before departing. She returned moments later and led Richard to the principal's office. He entered a small room that barely qualified as an office, where the sparse furnishings made it clear the orphanage had few sponsors. The walls were bare, and the furniture appeared ancient. Behind a large desk sat an elderly woman with a pleasant face, but such a stern demeanour that Richard shivered. "Good evening," she greeted him in a deep voice that seemed incongruous with her appearance. "Mrs. Tanner mentioned you're here about financing." "Yes and no," Richard mumbled, settling into a rickety chair. "I'll be direct, I came here by chance." "By chance? To us?" the woman marvelled. "So,
You're not here about sponsorship. Why then?
Well, Richard shook his head. I am willing to sponsor you, but I've never done this before. My wife has done charity work, though, in a different area. She actually suggested I come to you.
Really? Has she worked with us before?
I don't know, Richard confessed. Well, perhaps I should introduce myself properly. I'm Richard Hughes. Richard blushed, suddenly feeling self-conscious before this woman.
Wait, are you Elaine Hughes's husband?
The principal brightened. Richard nodded.
Why didn't you say so earlier? And where's Elaine? She must be very busy. She disappeared so suddenly. We had planned to meet next week. She's been such a help to us.
Actually, she never mentioned it to me. I was away on a long business trip. When did you say she first contacted you?
About a month ago. But did anything happen to her?
Mrs. Peterson's face turned ashen. Elaine died. Richard exhaled. A week ago. The clot. I just read her note today. It had your address, so I thought I'd come offer help, since she'd been in contact with you.
My God, what a tragedy. Such a bright soul. What a difficult life she had. Prison, losing a child, and now death at such a young age. Oh, you seem unaware, so let me show you someone first.
Mrs. Peterson rose and gestured for Richard to follow. They climbed the worn stairs to the second floor. The principal opened a door to reveal the dining room, where about 20 children of various ages ate quietly, with only occasional whispers.
They're having dinner now. You seem surprised by how quiet it is here. Don't let our deteriorating building fool you. We have excellent staff. Their kindness keeps everything running. The state only funds big orphanages. Finding private sponsors is our curse. But they nitpick every detail and walk away. The irony is that funding goes to institutions where management isn't ashamed to pocket most of the money. I won't name names, but one colleague bought a villa on Bali after 5 years of such sponsorship. She drives an expensive car. Of course, she maintains minimum of possible standards for the children to avoid scandal. Sponsors require accountability, but it's inhuman. The money she pockets could send all the children to the seaside annually. Instead, they're merely adequately fed and clothed. I couldn't do that. Children aren't just flowers of life to me. I've worked with them for 40 years. I've seen everything. I'm principal now, but I started as a regular teacher, working with troubled children. Every graduate remembers me. They visit often. Many have become successful. They help us, of course. We recently bought tablets and bicycles for everyone. We regularly send children to sanatoriums, but we can't afford repairs. Don't think I'm complaining. We prioritize urgent needs with sponsor money. New clothes, better food, healthcare, so repairs wait. We do basic maintenance in the bedrooms, but that's all.
You should replace the windows, Richard interjected.
Winter's coming and it gets very drafty. We're on the windy side. Last year, we replaced most in the children's bedrooms. I know we should do more, but we're under budget. State subsidies aren't enough. And I've explained about other income. Your Elaine, God rest her soul, said she could help.
Tell me what she promised. I'll fulfill it all. And tell me what you need for the windows. I'll provide the funding. I can't bear to look at them. As a child, I had a window with a hole. No matter how much my mother taped it, the draft came through. I was constantly sick. If you're serious, I'll show you the estimate. We'd be so grateful. And don't think I'll fix my office first. I'm not that kind of person. Children come first. Visit any time to supervise. Yes, I can see you're different, Mrs. Peterson. Elaine wasn't wrong. She must have had good reasons to work with you.
Yes, there were reasons, but I promised to show you someone. Now that the children have finished eating, let's tour. See what we have here. I want to be clear. I'm not asking for anything. Whatever help you're willing to give, we'll gladly accept.
I understand. I'm not wealthy, but I'll help substantially in some way. I mean, after my wife's death, I haven't thought about whether I'll continue her business. Most likely, my help to you will be one time. I'm in such a state right now that I intend to quit. I have some savings, of course. It will be enough for now, even considering charity expenses, but I don't know what I will do, or whether I will stay here. Everything reminds me of Elaine. It's just unbearable.
It's been such a short time since Elaine's death. Time heals,
Mrs. Peterson said in a soothing voice.
You know, I'm quite old, and I've been dealing with death for a long time. I've lost loved ones myself, and I'll tell you this. Death is not the worst thing. No one knows where people go when they die, whether there is heaven and hell or only emptiness. That's a philosophical question, but I believe that souls still live, and they live not in an abstract afterlife, but in our hearts. Elaine is with you forever, as long as you breathe, Richard. You'll have to come to terms with her physical death, and sooner or later you will. My husband has been gone for 15 years. The pain is still there, but it doesn't feel empty, you know? I've just decided that he's always there, even if I can't see him. It may sound like the ramblings of a crazy old woman, but it's helped me a lot. Sometimes I can feel him clearly. Sometimes he even talks to me. No, not in the sense that I hear voices.
Mrs. Peterson laughed, but Richard caught a glimpse of tears in the corner of her eyes.
He speaks to me with signs. Even before you came here, believe it or not, I was supposed to leave early today, but I stayed late because my late husband gave me a sign. I've learned not to ignore those messages. I won't tell you all about it, but I realized I had to stay late. And you see, for good reason. I wouldn't have known that Elaine was gone.
At that moment, there was noise from the dining room. The doors swung open, letting out the well-fed children. As the flow of toddlers and teenagers subsided, the woman's gaze became restless. She walked quickly to the dining room and peered inside, immediately waving Richard over.
"Paige, why are you here alone?"
the principal asked, looking through the door. When Richard peeked in, he saw a girl about 7 or 8 years old at the far table. She sat alone, looking out the window, clasping something in her fingers. Mrs. Peterson approached her, drawing Richard along. The woman sat down on one of the chairs, and the man did the same.
"Something's wrong, my dear?"
the principal inquired again. "Mrs. Peterson, I'm very sad."
"Why is that?"
the woman asked.
"Is there trouble at school? Or do the boys give you trouble? Tell it like it is. Any problem can be solved, and the earlier we address it, the fewer difficulties will arise."
Paige looked at Richard incredulously, and at that moment it was as if the man were paralyzed. He had seen that look before. 4.5 years ago, Elaine had looked at him with those same eyes when she was released from the colony. These grey eyes were unmistakable, and the girl was remarkably similar to his late wife.
"Don't be afraid, Paige,"
Mrs. Peterson reassured her.
"This uncle is good. He helps us, and you know his wife. His Elaine's husband."
"Elaine?" The girl's face suddenly darkened and tears came to her eyes. "Why doesn't she come any more? Have I offended her?"
"Why, no," marvelled the principal. "How could you have offended her?"
"I said some nasty things to her." The girl wrinkled her nose. "She said she was going to take me in,
And I told her that no one ever takes people like me. I'm an adult and everyone wants babies. And anyway, I'm waiting for my mother, and I won't go to another woman, even if she's as nice as she is. It seems like she took great offence at those words.
What makes you think so?
Because she hasn't come to see me since that day. For a whole month she came every day, and a week ago she disappeared. I'm not stupid. I realise my rudeness scared her off, like all the others before her.
Paige, Mrs. Peterson stroked her dark, almost black hair. Elaine doesn't come for another reason. You haven't offended her at all. On the contrary, she was determined to take you away. But life sometimes changes people's paths abruptly. Her plans were not destined to come true. Elaine became very ill, and she is no more with us.
How?
Paige's eyes widened, not believing what she heard.
She died?
Richard sat there stunned. It was a revelation that his late wife had intended to adopt this girl. For a month, a whole month, she had secretly visited here and bonded with this child. What kind of surprise was that? And why the secrecy? He would have supported adoption if Elaine had only mentioned it. He was distracted from his thoughts by a glint. The girl's slender fingers, which had been rubbing something hanging around her neck, glittered. Richard's gaze fell on a tiny locket in the shape of a half-curled cat. It was exactly like Elaine's silver pendant, but turned the other way and slightly lighter. If combined, the two pendants would form a kind of yin-yang sign.
It's beautiful, Richard said, pointing at Paige's jewellery. Did Elaine give it to you?
No, the girl shook her head. The cat has been with me since I was born. They tried to steal it several times, so Mrs. Peterson engraved it. Here, look.
The girl took off the pendant and handed it to Richard. He took it and turned it over. Tiny letters were embossed on the back. Paige S.
S, that stone, explained the girl. My last name.
I have one just like it,
Richard said suddenly, and took his wife's necklace off his neck. He folded the two kittens into a Chinese symbol and showed it to the girl. Both Paige and Mrs. Peterson were greatly surprised. The girl gingerly touched both pendants. This is Elaine's pendant, the man explained. That's why I asked if she had given you one like it. I never realized it was a double pendant. Maybe it wasn't just a coincidence. After talking to the girl for a while longer, Mrs. Peterson and Richard went to the principal's office.
Richard, the woman began suddenly, tell me, don't you find all this strange?
What exactly?
Everything. I don't know if it makes sense to tell you this, but when Elaine first came to us, she had no thoughts of adopting anyone. She came with a specific goal, to help the orphanage financially. We had a long talk about this, so I can say this with certainty. On the third visit, if I'm not mistaken, I persuaded her to visit the children. Elaine had told me a few years ago, while in prison, she had given birth and lost a child. The subject of children was extremely painful for her, so I hadn't pressed the matter. But that day something told me to take her to see the babies. I convinced her just to meet them in person and understand who she was helping. That's when she first saw Paige. This girl has been with us for about 3 years, having come from another orphanage. Several families tried to adopt her, but Paige has a difficult character, like many of our children. She was taken away twice and returned twice. The girl has no trust in adults, as you can imagine. She started school this year, and in less than 2 months, she's already had numerous conflicts with teachers. I do everything possible to manage these situations, but the core issue is that she simply doesn't trust anyone. Of course she doesn't. She's been betrayed multiple times. We know nothing about her real parents. She was abandoned as an infant, and this pendant around her neck is her only connection to her mother. She never parts with the jewellery and sincerely believes her mother will return one day.
But that's impossible, Richard said doubtfully.
Exactly, but try explaining that to a 7-year-old child. What's most peculiar is the source of this conviction. Usually, children who wait for their parents' return are those who knew them, who were abandoned at a conscious age. But Paige couldn't possibly have any memories of her parents. She came straight from the maternity hospital.
Has she seen a psychologist?
Of course. Not just our staff psychologist either. As I mentioned, we don't skimp on the children's care. Excellent specialists have worked with Paige, but she remains convinced her mother will return. We were advised to wait it out, though for how long no one knows. But what I want to tell you is something different. You see, when Elaine first saw Paige, she was immediately drawn to her. The playroom was full of children that day. Usually when they see unfamiliar adults, many rushes over to, let's say, present themselves. It's common here, but Paige always keeps to herself. Yet surprisingly, when she saw Elaine, she came straight to us. Elaine stood there transfixed. She couldn't take her eyes off the girl. They began talking. Nothing special, just about everything. Paige was preparing for school, and Elaine brought her many supplies, stationery, a backpack, uniforms, books, and various small items. They've been close ever since. Shortly before her tragic death, Elaine told me she was serious about adopting the girl. She inquired about the paperwork and adoption process. We agreed on a day when she would tell Paige about it, but on the appointed day, Elaine didn't show up. Now we know why. And the main part of the story is that Elaine was sure that Paige was her daughter. She believed the baby had survived birth, despite being told otherwise. She never mentioned her pendant, but she saw Paige wore hers. Elaine was adamantly sure herself they were related, and she persuaded me too, and she did a DNA test. The results were supposed to be ready on that unfortunate day. This must have been the surprise she mentioned.
Wait, how do I get the results? Where did they submit the samples?
I don't know. The woman shook her head. Maybe ask her friends or relatives.
Her friends? Her relatives? There was no one she would have trusted with such a secret, except her sister. All right, Mrs. Peterson, here's my business card. Send me an estimate for the windows and list everything you need. I'll try to cover at least some expenses. In return, but first, I need to uncover the truth.
Richard, if it's confirmed that Paige is Elaine's daughter, what then?
The man froze. Indeed, what then? Elaine was gone, and Paige was a stranger to him. Even if she was his late wife's daughter, what did that mean for him? Then again, it would confirm the girl's relation to Meredith. I don't know yet, he shrugged. Let's solve problems as they come. Getting to Meredith's house, Richard walked resolutely toward the entrance. After a long silence from the intercom, just as he was about to leave, a familiar voice called from behind. "Richard!" Meredith exclaimed. "Thank God you're all right. A week without word from you. I've been so worried. No answer on your phone, at work or at home."
"Hi, Meredith." The man blushed.
"Yes, Don't explain. I can see you've been drinking, heavily and continuously, but it's not my place to judge. Let's go upstairs. I need to talk to you."
"What a coincidence," Richard remarked. "I need to talk to you too."
Meredith prepared tea and seated Richard at the table. The man broke the silence first.
"I was at the orphanage today."
Meredith remained quiet, stirring sugar in her tea.
"Meredith," Richard continued, "do you know something?"
don't you? Yes. But what does it matter now? I tried to tell you. I called, but you didn't answer. Then I thought it was important to Elaine, but it was her business. Maybe it was better if you never found out. The letter you gave me had this address in it, so I went. I thought it was another one of Elaine's charity projects, but that girl... You mean Paige? Meredith sipped her tea. Look, Richard, Elaine was sure it was her daughter. I don't know why she thought so, but she even had her saliva analysed. That day, when Elaine... That day, we were going to stop by the clinic to get the test results. I knew they'd definitely come back negative, but Elaine was so excited. So you still don't know if it's true or not? Who's going to give me the test results? It's confidential. She did it. She should get the results. Have you seen that girl? Richard asked. No, I didn't go to the orphanage with Elaine. It's all in her own words. And the pendant. Tell me, this pendant. Richard took a pendant out of her pocket. It's Elaine's jewellery, exclaimed Meredith. To be honest, I hadn't seen it on my sister before prison. Why do you ask? You see, Paige has the same pendant around her neck. Maybe it's just a coincidence, but when I put them together it looked like a match. Maybe Elaine considered for more than just a superficial resemblance. When she convinced herself she was related to the girl, just imagine, the girl gives birth in prison. They tell her the baby's dead. How could the pendant, half of the pendant, end up around the baby's neck? Why would they hide that the baby survived? Elaine's sentences were short. Maybe the girl was mistaken for dead. Then it was too late to inform Elaine. Come on, they're not allowed to wear jewellery. We have no way of knowing now. Elaine's not here to tell us, but we can confirm or deny the girl's parentage. Tell me where the DNA test was done. All right. Meredith looked at him incredulously. Let's say everything is confirmed. What next? I can't take the girl. I have 3 of my own, and my husband won't be happy about another mouth to feed. You're the one with money. We're counting every penny. She may be my blood, but where's the guarantee she'll love me? You're not thinking of taking her yourself, are you? Maybe I am. Well, think about it. Who'd give a girl to a single man? I know what kind of person you are, but to the authorities, you're suspicious. You know how things are nowadays. And by the way, biologically my sister might be her mother, but she was brought up like a hunted animal. And according to what I've heard from Elaine, this girl is still waiting for her mum. She never knew her, but she's waiting and doesn't want any other adults. Not all is lost. We can give her a normal life. Richard tried to justify his idea. Richard, you're an idealist. Everything's possible, but trust me, no one will give a child to a single man, even if she's his late wife's daughter. Do you know how much paperwork is involved? For a single woman, maybe. But for a man? What am I supposed to do? Meredith, this girl looks just like Elaine. Even her aura is the same. But worst of all, she's unhappy. There's no light in her eyes. She should be playing with dolls and eating candies, but she just sits in the cafeteria, distrusting everyone. I have a chance to fix her fate. Anyone in my position would do everything possible. Yeah, anyone, Meredith laughed. You seem to be a grown man, intelligent, educated, but you believe in fairy tales. If everyone was ready to give happiness to a child, orphanages wouldn't be overcrowded. This conversation is pointless. Okay, Meredith, let's do this. Let's go to the clinic first and get the result, okay? Okay, the woman sighed. Let's go. Richard held the DNA test results in his hands. According to them, Paige Stone was 99% Elaine Hughes's daughter. The man had firmly decided that if the tests were positive, he wouldn't leave Paige in the orphanage. He also knew Mrs. Peterson would support him, even if the law wouldn't. "I'll go there. The principal will know what to do. She must have dealt with such cases before." The orphanage greeted Richard with the same shabby windows. The weather was getting cold. Richard, shivering in his light jacket, got out of the car and headed for the entrance. The same woman as last time met him and immediately escorted him to the principal's office.
"Mrs. Peterson, hello,"
Richard greeted.
"Oh, Richard, what a surprise."
The woman clapped her hands.
"I didn't expect you back so soon. I hadn't even had an opportunity to send you the estimate."
"That's fine. I'll transfer money for the orphanage, and you can decide how to spend it. But, Mrs. Peterson, I have another question. The test result is here." Richard handed the test results to the principal.
"But this, it turns out, Elaine was right. Did her maternal instinct tell her she'd found her daughter?"
"It would seem so, but that's not the main issue now. I'd like to take Paige. Yes, I know she's nothing to me, and Elaine, her mother with whom the girl waited for all this time, is gone. But I want to make this little girl happy with all my heart. Even though I'm just a stranger to her, she's the flesh and blood of the person I loved most in the world. I'll be honest, I'm only 32 and have no parenting experience, but like you, I believe love and care work wonders. Besides, I have money and can provide her with everything she needs, give her a proper education and a future. Why should she struggle here, trying to survive, when I can spare her from all that?"
"Richard, you're a wonderful man,"
Mrs. Peterson said, with a mixed expression of frown and smile.
"But our laws are very strict. I would give you the girl, even now, but according to the law, I can only do it if you officially adopt her. I'll tell you right away that there's almost no chance that Paige will be given to you. It would be different if you had a wife. Of course, you can talk to Elaine's sister. She is officially the girl's maternal aunt, and therefore she has the right to formalize guardianship. But Paige would have to live with her, and social services would regularly check how and with whom the child lives."
"But Meredith is against it." "Not exactly against, it's just that she has 3 children of her own, and her husband is struggling to make ends meet. Is there really no other option?"
"There's only one. You need to get married. Then the family will be complete, and I will do everything possible to accelerate the process. But it seems foolish. You've just buried your wife, and to look for a wife just to adopt Paige."
"A wife, you say?" Richard thought about it. "Well, I'll solve this question somehow." "Richard!" Bonnie exclaimed in surprise when she opened the door. "Why did you come?" "To apologize." Richard looked guiltily at the floor. "Bonnie, I'm sorry. I said many things last time that I regret. I regretted them as soon as I said them, but pride kept me from calling to apologize." "And now you calmed down?" the woman remarked sarcastically. "Okay, let's say I forgive you, but I sense you didn't come just for that."
"You're right," sighed the man. "As always. Always you, Bonnie. Right. Are you alone? We need to talk."
"Of course I'm alone. Who would I be with? Come in."
"Where's your boyfriend?"
"Who?" Bonnie laughed. "What boyfriend? I haven't had a relationship in over a year. Ah, so you're also one of those who believe all these rumours. Now I see why you called me that."
"Bonnie, I'm sorry."
"Well, I don't care what others say. What matters is that I know who I really am."
"And who are you?"
Richard suddenly asked. "It's human nature to judge by appearances, but, Richard, looks can be deceiving. It's convenient for me to appear accessible. In work, you know, it helps. You're a highly skilled professional, one of very few. What am I? Just a sales manager. The impression I make on partners is crucial. You know our clients. A wink, a few charming moves, and the contract's ours. No one mentioned following through. Hinting and doing are different things.
Then why did you flirt with me? You knew I was married.
What makes you think I was flirting? Smiling and showing genuine interest. Is that flirting?
Well, you're just...
It's nothing like that, Richard. If you'd asked me directly long ago, everything would have been clear. Instead, you've been overthinking it. Yes, I like you very much, but I know boundaries. While your wife was alive, I didn't dare think of you that way. It's not in my nature to pursue what belongs to others. And now, she's only recently gone, and it would be wrong of me to take advantage. I value you as a friend. You have a special place in my heart. You helped me once, and I don't forget that. I'll repay you when I can. But how can I repay you? You have everything.
Bonnie, you're a good woman.
Richard sighed.
Tell me, remember when you came by the other day and said we should help those dear to us? Something like that. I don't recall the exact words, but the essence was about maintaining our humanity.
I know what you mean, but why? Did something happen?
Yes, Bonnie. Something's wrong. I have a request. I'll tell you now, it's very strange, and I'll understand if you refuse. But it's practically a matter of life and death. Well, between a good life and a questionable one.
Richard, you're both scaring and intriguing me. Bonnie sat down on the couch. What is it? Tell me. I won't promise anything, but if I can help, I will.
Bonnie, here's the situation. I found out a few days ago that Elaine had a daughter. I don't know why, but Elaine was deceived 7 years ago, and just before she died, she found the girl. The girl is now in an orphanage. DNA confirmed that Paige is Elaine's daughter, and I'd really like to take her, but legally I have neither rights nor chances, frankly speaking. I could apply for adoption, but in our country a single man has no priority. They'd rather keep a child in an orphanage than allow them to be raised by a single-parent home, especially without a mother.
So, what?
Bonnie frowned. Bonnie, I have a huge request. Marry me, then I can officially adopt Paige.
Wait a minute. Did I hear that right? You came to ask me to be your fake wife so you can adopt a girl you don't know.
She's not a girl I don't know. I loved Elaine, and this baby is her own blood.
Elaine spent her whole life in pain, regretting that she couldn't have the baby, and now, how can I leave this girl? I know how this all sounds, my proposal and the story, but there's only one way out. I'll never forgive myself. Yes, I could marry some stranger, but there's no time to search, and I don't want to involve a stranger who'll just demand money. After seeing that orphanage, I'd rather donate that money to help them all. And you, Bonnie, you're a good person. I'm not asking you to love Paige and me, but you're kind. You can give this girl the warmth she desperately needs. You understand I'm not asking for myself, but for an innocent child who's already lost faith in people. Help her regain that faith. Bonnie was silent. She looked at Richard for a long time, then stood up and left the room. She returned 7 minutes later carrying some papers. Do you know what these are? She asked. How would I know? Just some papers. I've never told anyone. I was afraid they'd laugh. But I'm from an orphanage too.
That can't be.
Why not? Look for yourself. I was 5 when my mum abandoned me at the train station with a homeless man. She said, "Stay here. I'll go to the restroom." I waited 2 hours. That man, bless his heart, though homeless, was kind. When I cried, he comforted me, bought me a bun, I still remember its taste, and tea with sugar. Then he took me to the police. I was so little, I only knew my mother's name, not even my address. They put me in an orphanage. A year later, a miracle happened. My real parents came. I can't call them anything else. They were the only ones who saw a princess in an unattractive, world-weary little frog. Nobody else even looked at me. They were wary because I was so wild. I'd lost faith in people then, but my mum and dad, from the moment they saw me, never let me go. No one is dearer to me than these people. So, Richard, I'll agree to your proposal. Life has shown me what it means to be alone, waiting for your mother to come to her senses. Let's meet Paige. I want to tell her that she should never lose faith in people. Never.
You're not joking, Bonnie.
Richard stared at her dumbfounded.
Think about it. This is a serious step.
In life, you need to take risks. Some cases are worth it. Who knows how my life would have turned out if my parents hadn't visited that orphanage? Things happened this way for a reason. If you found the courage to make a small, defenseless child happy, even one not related to you, you deserve the highest respect. I'd be a fool to turn you away now. No one knows what will happen next. We have the power to change things now. Only a fool or coward would refuse, and I've never been either.
Bonnie, are you sure? Remember, this girl is a stranger to both of us.
I was once a stranger too. That didn't stop me from becoming family. By the way, I need to introduce you to my parents, or they won't understand why their daughter married without telling them. So, when's the wedding?
Bonnie!
Richard jumped up and hugged her tightly. Don't squeeze so hard, she laughed.
Well, that settles the wedding. Tell me, when can we meet Paige?
Even tomorrow. By the way, they asked about you at work. The boss doesn't want to accept your resignation. Maybe you should reconsider.
Good. From now on, I'm not going anywhere. I have a daughter to raise, and that's not exactly cheap.
Richard laughed, keeping Bonnie in his embrace.